One. Ladies and gentlemen, back after a long return. It's me, your boy, John.
And it's me, your other boy, Tony. And today on Basement Grown Fun Guys podcast, we're going to be doing a long overdue top 10 albums of the past decade, that being 2010 to 2019. So I'm going to get us started off here with number 10, and then John will give his number 10, and so on and so forth. And I think we're both going to have a few honorable mentions at the end. And I think you will be, I don't know, probably not very surprised if you know me, but you know, maybe you'll learn a little something nonetheless. So, coming in at number 10 for me is an album that's very dear to my heart. It's L'Enfant Sauvage, or L'Enfant Sauvage by Gojira. French heavy metal band, came out 2012. Uh, and this album was, in my opinion, the best Gojira album to come out in the 2010s. I mean, my personal favorite Gojira album is From Mars to Sirius, but that came out in 2005. And that's what
Mm.
got me into the band. That and then The Way of All Flesh, you know. So when L'Enfant Sauvage came out in 2012, I was all about that shit, and it was fantastic. I mean, it's got some of my favorite songs like Explosia and Liquid Fire and Born in Winter. You know, I really like those are three of my favorite Gojira tracks, honestly.
Hmm.
And that album, I mean, from start to finish, like, it's a no skip album, right? There's nothing on that album that I skip, and none of my top 10 there's anything on these albums that I would skip, you know. There's no
Hmm.
filler tracks, in my opinion. There's everything contributes to the album as a whole, and I think L'Enfant Sauvage is a very solid album. I mean, the other contender for number 10 with Gojira anyway is obviously Magma, which came out in 2015. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like uh, uh, L'Enfant Sauvage. I think it was just a more solid album overall. I think
Yeah.
I enjoyed it more overall, so that's why I took my number 10.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Um,
I do love Levant Savage. Um,
L'Enfant Sauvage.
The Gift of Gil is probably my favorite Gojira song.
Le
But
gift to gift.
the sad thing is, actually, this album did not make it on my list. And actually, I would say it would be in my honorable mentions, but I kind of limited myself to three on the honorable mentions. So I just kind of was like, okay,
That's
um,
fine. I did not limit myself whatsoever, but I'm not going to spend
yeah,
too long on any of those.
um, yeah. Born in
What
Winter.
was your number 10,
All
John?
right, my number 10, The Last Stand by Sabaton, coming out in 2016, which followed up Heroes by Sabaton, and I think Sabaton Heroes released in 2014, and I thought it was a solid album from start to finish. It had a very I mean, it very much follows the name of the album, The Last Stand, as far as theme wise. You know, a lot of these songs are very fun to listen to live, especially Sparta, which leads off the album. When you hear that live, you you go along with that song so well in the crowd. It's amazing. Um, but then there's also just a lot of good stories on it, which I really like. Um, the Last Battle, which taught me a lot about um, the last battle of what's considered the last battle of World War II, which I don't want to get into a long thing with that. Because if I went into every song on this album, we would be here for a very long time.
Yup.
Uh,
Reader's Digest version, though, you know.
yeah. I would actually. This is actually a good idea. If we need like some filler weeks or something, we could actually dive into certain albums that we both like very much. I know this album is one of those. Um,
Yup.
The Winged Hussars itself could almost be a whole full length episode for a podcast from us. It's an amazing album from top to bottom. There's no low parts to it, which I think was a big
The
thing.
Winged Hussars arrived.
Which
Sorry,
that's going to be a big thing for me throughout this list. Is that, like Tony said, there's no skippable songs on this for me. I love every song on this album, including Camouflage, which is a little on the weird side as far as story wise, but it's still fun. And then also All Guns Blazing, which is I believe a cover of Judas Priest. So whole album, top to bottom, great album. And was an amazing follow up, which I think is also why I give it some bonus points, because it follows up Heroes, which I don't have on my list either, but would also be, I didn't have it on my honorable mentions, but I think it should be. Heroes was a great album, but there's a couple songs on Heroes I would have I could skip, so that's why it's not on here. But to Tony for number 9.
Number 9. So this is a pick. May surprise John. I'm not sure if it will or not. But The Sin in the Sentence by heavy metal band Trivium, released in 2017. Oh, is that another one on your list?
Yep.
Okay, but I mean, it's a fantastic album. I mean, all the way through, right? I think it was a return to form for Trivium in the best sort of way, right? Because they released a few albums in the 2010s, in waves, right? Which I thought was pretty decent. It was okay, it was okay. But obviously there were some filler tracks, right? Like I skipped a few around on that album quite a bit, actually. And same thing with Vengeance Falls, right? I mean, had a couple of good songs, right? But at the same time, compared to all the other 3 albums, Silence in the Snow is the other album that came out, which, had some good tracks as well. But The Sin in the Sentence, every single track was a killer, right? I can listen to the whole thing through. I mean, it was the first one with their with the I think it's the latest drummer that they have. I don't know. They've had like 50 fucking drummers, and you can see his chops, right? And you can see some influence from other bands come out in a few of the tracks on The Sin in the Sentence, but they put their own little Trivium spin on it. And also, Matt Heafy was doing heavy vocals again, which definitely surprised me, but made me very happy. Because I mean, "The Sin in the Sentence" is one of my favorite songs on that album, and "The Revanchist" is another one that I really, really like. And there's a couple of parts that almost sound like proggy, kind of like almost like Dream Theater esque progginess to it that I really like. I mean, it really shows the chops of everybody in the band, vocally, guitar work, drum work. I mean, their new drummer, he can play, right? And I just think the only track on there that I might maybe pass over is Other Worlds, but at the same time it fits with all the other songs on the album, and I think it fits in a good way. It's it's an overall really good album, and only made number 9 though, because I maybe might skip one of the tracks, maybe. But anyways, that's all I got to say about that. What's yours?
My number 9, which this one actually might surprise you. I wasn't surprised by that pick. I knew you liked that album, but this one might surprise you, as you just didn't see it coming, but it might make sense to you once you hear it. But it's Worship Music by Anthrax, released in 2011.
All right.
So this was almost, I have like a kind of an honorable mention as far as like return of the decade. This was almost it, but actually, as it made my top 10, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to pick that for this.
Yeah.
But from start to finish, an amazing album, especially with Joey Belladonna being back singing, which I think he's the best singer Anthrax has had and will ever have, especially live. But on this album, In the End is by far the best song on that album. I don't Fight 'Em Till You Can't is really fun song. Uh I just I don't even know what to say about this album as far as just because all the songs are amazing and I don't really want to just be like, oh, this song's amazing. This song's amazing. The whole entire album's amazing. Um it was good to hear Anthrax back again with really good music. Um
Were there any tracks that you didn't care that much for?
I don't think so. Because
Well, there you go.
yeah. So that's the thing.
Just
It's like,
curious.
yeah, no, that's the thing. Like this is like every album on this list, I there's not a song I would take out. Because if you took that song out, I would say like, well, this it's just missing now. It's just gone. And that's but the other thing I always like the little things in albums. It has a really good intro, and again, in the end, best song in the album has an intro to it. It's Hymn 1 is the track. Um and it's just like a nice little cello playing, and it's very nice, and I love it. Um, and that's my number 9.
There you go. Sounds good. You ready for my number 8?
Sure.
So, number 8 is an album that many would consider oh, well, yeah, I guess that'd be on your list too, kind of album, because it's made the top, I guess, album charts of many different bands for many different lists. Because, obviously I've looked at a few other lists, some of them better than others. Loudwire. It's terrible. But it always seems to stand out, but I think there's a really good freaking reason for it. My number 8 is Meloria by Ghost. Um, Came out 2015, and I think that it was one of the most solid albums to come out in the past 10 years. I freaking love this album, all right? More so than the other albums that they've released um, since Ghost became a thing, right?
Hmm.
Because when this album came out for that entire for the entire rest of that summer and then the summer of the next year, right, this album was on repeat. Like, I had it on my phone. I actually downloaded it so I wouldn't screw up, with my data rates, from listening to this freaking album so much. I
Yeah.
mean, the intermediate tracks, like, the little filler kind of tracks, like a Spoxanaut and Devil Church, like just kind of smoothing the way between the tracks. It's really an album that is so well put together that you don't, yeah, you really want a good player for this, so there's no skipping in between the songs because it just flows so freaking well.
Hmm.
Like, they're not traditional heavy metal as a lot of people would put it, right? And spoiler alert, all of the albums on my list are heavy metal. If you consider Ghost heavy metal, because regardless of what they are, regardless of what you want to call them, it's some good damn music, all right. And I think they might be overplayed a little bit, That's why they're only number 8. But yeah. And by the way, Square Hammer, it's not on this album, but Square Hammer is not the greatest heavy metal song to come out in the last 10 years. I'll just say it flat out.
Fuck you,
Whoever
Loudwire.
thinks that whoever thinks that, you're wrong, okay? You're wrong. Just go listen to probably most other albums on this list and you'll find a better song than Square Hammer. I mean, come on. That's all I have to say about number 8. What's your number 8, John?
My number 8 is Unto the Locust by Machine Head, released in 2011. Another album I just love the fucking shit out of. No, this is a really good album. I want to say Locust. No, Darkness Within is my favorite song on this album. It's I don't know. There's the I don't really pay attention to the lyrics that much. I really don't ever. Um, and any band or any, more, except for Sabaton and Amon Amarth a little bit, because most of their music it's more about the lyrics and more about the story. But for most metal, I don't give a shit about the lyrics. They don't really mean a whole lot to me. But the line "We build cathedrals to our pain" um, just hit very well when I was in high school. It just hit the right nerve, and so "Darkness Within" is definitely my favorite song off the album. Um, "Locust" is just a great song from start to finish. The intro is really good, all the way through. Um, "Be Still and Know," uh, that's really good. Um, the
Honestly, I that's one of my honorable mentions. I really
Yeah.
like this album as well. I just I just started listening to Machine Head probably about a year ago,
Mhm.
right? So it didn't make my top 10 just because, it was all very short notice for me actually hopping on the Machine Head bandwagon. I mean, I'd seen them live before, but like I hadn't actually given them a good old try.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just, yeah, it's really good album.
Yeah. Um, I saw I this is actually the album that actually got me into them. And so a lot of it is actually kind of sentimental based, because I'm a very sentimental guy. And so this is the album that got me into them, and I saw them live at Mayhem actually right around, I think it was the year after this got released. And so it just kind of cemented the fact, like, this
Yeah,
is a good album, and they played Locust. So it was good stuff. Um, and there's again, it's
controversial. Oh,
huh?
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
The controversial opinion. I think I actually like Bloodstone and Diamonds better than Unto the Locust.
That's
I think I like
fair.
it better. I think
I
it's got some more of my favorites. Like "Sail Into the Black" is one of my favorite songs. Same with "Game Over."
yeah. Okay, so the talk about Bloodstone and Diamonds real quick, which again probably could have been an honorable mentions. It's just it
Sure,
just didn't get there. But
we'll say it's on there.
Sail Into the Black is one I've probably blown out the speakers into my car. Uh,
God, the drop is so
yeah.
fucking heavy.
The Durr, durr. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh god, yeah. No. Fucking damn it, Tony. Yeah, but
Sorry, I
still,
just thought I'd mention it since you were talking about Machine Head.
no, it's fair. But still, I think I gotta give it to Onto the Locust, because again, I think it plays into a little bit of the sentimental factor, as far as why I like Onto the Locust more. And Darkness Within hits. It was one of those songs that just kind of hit well back in high school, back into the
Mhm.
the feeling years. So that's my number 8.
Yeah. All right. So on to number 7. My pick is a song that also has a lot of sentimental value for me as well. Barely made it onto the list because it came out in November of 2010. But Marrow of the Spirit by Agalok. Um, it's a black metal album. It's very ambient, and it's one of my all-time favorite albums. Like just all together, like not just of the last decade. Um, it was it obviously made it onto the list because albums of the last decade, but it would make it probably onto my list of albums of all time. Right, 6 tracks, 65 minutes long. Right, so it's not a short album, but I think the sound and the feelings that Agalok can invoke through their ambient music making is just such a beautiful picture. I think that Marrow of the Spirit is the best album that I think encapsulates um, the feeling that you get looking at freshly fallen snow in the middle of the night, right? It's calm, it's quiet, but it's powerful in the same way. It's not always calm because, internally, when you look at something like that, you're not always, I don't know. I don't want to wax philosophical about it too much, but if you are a fan of atmospheric black metal or Cascadian black metal, anything that comes out of like the Pacific Northwest, and you don't know Agalok, this should be a good jumping off point for you. That or another album that I couldn't put on the list because it came out in 2002 was The Mantle. Um, Great jumping off point. I like The Mirror of the Spirit better than Mantle, but you know. And I think that's all I really got to say about that album there. I wish that Agalloch didn't break up.
Mm,
That's all I can say about that.
that's always a bummer.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's your number 7?
My number 7 is The Sin in the Sentence. Um, not much
Ah,
more to not much more to add to this album. We have decently similar music tastes. Like, I mean, we cross. There's a lot of bridges we cross as far as the metal genre goes. So, yeah, I
uh-huh.
wasn't surprised to see this one on your list, and I'm sure you're not surprised to see this on mine. Um, Definitely the thing that gets me about this album. I want to point out one thing. I'm not going to say too much about this album because we already kind of covered it. But in Beyond Oblivion, um the little part where it's just like I don't know how this describes it, but he starts hitting like like it's not the cowbell, but like it's just a little different, like little
The
beat
symbol
that, yeah.
or
But
the China, whatever. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Neither of us play the drums, so don't hate us.
yeah, the little ching 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 ching, like it gives it a little
Yeah.
kind of like a little funky bit to it, and it's not something you hear too much in metal. Um, at least not to that level of exposure or like being up front as much. So that was definitely that little funky bit gets to me every time. I'm just doing like doing a little dance, whatever. So yeah, I'm not gonna add too much more to what we've already said. So that's my number 7.
Are you ready for number 6?
No.
Du du hast
Oh really?
du
Okay.
hast mich. Yes, it is in fact Ramstein's album released last year, their untitled album with the the one with the matchstick on the cover. The only album they've released since 2009, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coming off the back of Liebe ist für alle da, which was another controversial opinion, my favorite Ramstein album. Um, this album, it I wasn't okay. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't expecting too terribly much from a new Ramstein album. Okay, it's been a while. Industrial metal's not really a thing anymore. The guys are getting old, and they hadn't written any music. Well, Till Lindemann has. He has his own band, Lindemann, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the group as a whole hadn't written any music in like 10 years, and so it was like, this could be good. And then the single Deutschland came out, and I was like, oh, this could be good.
Oh dear lord.
And then the actual album came out, and every single track, I listened to it all in one sitting, obviously. And you know by the end of it, I couldn't help, I couldn't help headbanging. I couldn't help getting into it, you know because I mean, it just goes back to back to back to back, and you can't slow down, really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and then number 6, Puppe. That's one of my favorite tracks. I mean, don't look up the lyrics if you don't speak German, right? It's kind of it's a fucked up song. It's pretty
Yeah.
sad, but as someone who knows enough German to not always have to look up the lyrics, that's still I mean, some tracks, the point of art is to evoke emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes hard and it evokes some emotion, right? I fucking love that track,
Yeah.
right? It's it's pretty amazing. It's my favorite track off the album and one of my favorite Ramstein tracks. And the other one that I think I might like more. Um, well, I don't want to wax on about Ramstein too much because they have a lot of songs and a pretty wide discography.
Yeah.
But Frühling in Paris, Mein Teil, they're all very very good songs.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my number 6. You gotta expect it. It's gotta be on this list because when that album came out, it took the world by storm.
Yeah.
Good cause.
So, before we move on to my number 6, we are actually going to go see Ramstein in Chicago in September.
Hey.
Hell
Yep,
yeah.
right around my birthday.
Um, but actually, so as we're on this album, it's not on my list. It's actually I put it on my uh comeback of the decade. Um, there's a couple, bands that could have been on this list. Metallica was one, but I'll bring that up later.
Uh,
Um, well, actually, Metallica not really because they technically released 2 albums in the decade, so that's not really a comeback. But um, I'll talk about that later.
did they come back? Okay, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I'll trust me. I'll get to it later. But the other one was Tool. I didn't care for the new album. So, as far as like the biggest ones, I think Rammstein came back and they actually took the swing, hit it out of the park, crushed it. But for me, the first 6 songs on this album are amazing. However, the last 5, they kind of they're not bad by any means. They're not bad, but they don't just they don't hit it as well for me. So that's why this album didn't make it on the list at all. But because those first 6 songs, which is Deutschland, Radio, Zeitdish, Auslander, Sex, and Puppy, um, those songs just hit so hard and so well. Um, they crushed it. Coming
So,
back,
small aside about Puppe.
hmm
So, like I said, I speak a little bit of German, but I did not know what Puppe meant, right?
hmm
I thought that they might mean puppy, right? Because it
yeah,
sounds like puppy in English. So I thought that her sister had given her a puppy, and then she you know ripped the puppy's head off.
oh yeah, it's
And I thought it was much more brutal than it actually was.
yeah, uh,
So like, oh my god.
yeah, I could see that. Um, but
Then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, okay, that makes sense.
but it's still actually pretty messed up song if you listen to it. But I'm very much like if you're interested in the song, you like the song, I think you should know the meaning behind it. So yeah. Anyway,
Sure.
moving on to my number 6 from Gojira, released in 2016, Magma. Um,
Bon Sauvage better.
okay, this isn't the best albums of 20 or 2010s.
Yeah, yeah, they're your
It's
favorites.
our
I
favorite
know, I
albums.
know,
And
I know.
Magma is actually the album that got me into um Gojira. I watch these guys on YouTube. They do some reaction videos, and they did Stranded, and just even how they did it broken up and everything. I love Stranded, but Magma also has probably my second favorite next to Gift of Guilt as far as songs go is Pray. The That song, I love that song. I love the song so much, but also part of me hates it because of just the way the song is structured with the and then it's like so it goes for 3 and then it goes for 5 and then 3 and then 5 and it's just so weird to me that it does that. But that's also what Gojira does. They do weird shit like that, which is also what makes Gojira awesome. But that kind of
Yeah, weird time signatures can Gojira does that well. They do
yeah
it better than a lot of other bands. Well, outside of prog, anyways, because Gojira is not really proggy, right?
yeah.
I mean, they are a little bit, but yeah, it's very interesting to listen to, especially if you're a musician.
hmm And I'm a big bass guy. I love some bass. I love when bass players do do stuff that's actually really good. There's bass players who try to do stuff and then they're bad at it and then it just makes people laugh at them. Yellowstone, which is kind of like a little bass solo kind of thing. I thought I really like in that song is it's a little pause in between the album. It's really nice and I really like it. Um, because I mean the first 4 songs hit really fucking hard, and then you slow down for a second. Magma's a little bit on the slow side, and then fucking Prey comes and punches you in the face. It's a fucking good album. I'm not going to debate that love which one's better between L'Enfant Sauvage or this one. I think it's easily arguable that L'Enfant Sauvage is better, but I think for me and my taste, I think Magma's better, and I think that's why it's my favorite.
That's cool.
Um,
That's cool.
so Your number 5, sir.
My number 5, well, it had to be somewhere on this list. Uh, One of my favorite albums released in the last 10 years, number 5, is Deceiver of the Gods by Monomarth.
Wait, seriously?
Um, mhm.
Oh, it's number 5?
Yeah, it's number 5.
Guess what mine is?
Number 5?
My number 5 is Deceiver of the Gods.
There you go. Like minds think alike. So we can both talk
Yeah.
on this a little bit, but
Alright.
I'm going to go first. Is it my turn?
Okay, that's fine.
So they released a few albums, right, in 2010, right? So this is really an argument between which one do I think fits the most in my favorite albums, right? You got Surtur Rising, you have Deceiver of the Gods, Yam's Viking, and Berserker, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, Surtur Rising, it's a really good album, right? It's got some
Yeah.
really good songs on it, right?
Mhm.
But Deceiver of the Gods has more good songs on it, right?
Fair.
Better, gooder songs, in my opinion, right? And
I
then you have
agree.
Yam's Viking, which is cool, right? Yam's Viking was a really sweet album. It was their first like concept album kind of thing. It tells a story, right? And it wasn't as heavy as I would have necessarily liked. Don't get me wrong, they're all really good songs, right?
There's with a couple of them, there's a definitely more they leaned more on the pagan metal side and not
Yeah,
necessarily
I
the
mean,
death metal side.
I mean, there's, on Yams Viking, there are still maybe a couple of tracks that I would maybe skip. Like a Dream That Cannot Be, I usually skip that one.
Fair.
It's fair, you know. And then you got Berserker, right, which is really a toss up between Deceiver of the Gods and Berserker, right? Which one I like better? And I think I like Deceiver of the Gods better because while there are less tracks on Deceiver of the Gods, I think there are better tracks on Deceiver of the Gods. I mean, it's got some iconic ones, you know, Deceiver of the Gods, obviously, Father of the Wolf, Shapeshifter. I mean, I could just list all of them here, right?
Mhm.
The only one that's it's okay is Hell, which I mean, you know,
I really
you
like that
can
one. I really do.
yeah, you can yell at me if you want to about that.
I'm not gonna
That's
yell at
just,
you,
you
but
know, one track out of all of them that I just blast at full volume in my car, as opposed to there are a couple of songs on Berserker that you know I could be better, right? Could be a
well,
little bit better.
well, I think you're wrong, but I'll get to that later.
Okay, that's fine.
Um,
But yeah, that's the only Amon Amarth album on my list. So, and that's what I think about it. It just came at the perfect time for me to just get really into it. You know what I mean?
mhm. Um, see, the thing is with this album and why I'll get into later about why I think Berserker's better and where Berserker is on my list. Which I'm sure you probably know where it is. Uh,
Number 11.
no. Um, the thing is with this album is a lot of the songs, all the songs are amazing, but the thing is, a lot of the songs have really good parts in them that make me like the song, but not the whole entire song altogether. Um, Coming of the Tide, the breakdown in the middle where they start doing triplets, that's really good. Um, Under Siege towards the end where they, like where they like they're going out to battle and they're all going out to die, and that little the like it's more of a it gets more melodical and very more, melody wise, not as heavy, but it's still, and I like that part really well. Stuff like that, that's kind of all through this album. And I really like that. I really like that kind of stuff, but I just feel like some of the song uh I think it's maybe We Shall Destroy. I think it's in We Shall Destroy where honestly part of it is actually kind of completely ripped off Thunder Kiss 65 by Rob Zombie or White Zombie.
Nah,
No.
it's just a gallop. I don't think it's a ripoff.
Okay, fair. It's not a ripoff, but I'm wrong. It's not Thunder Kiss 65. It's Black Sunshine.
Yeah, I know what you were talking about though.
Yeah. So, um, and I'm kind of like, okay, I love that, and I love that part, but I don't know. I don't have the feel like it still made it to number 5 on my list. I still highly regard this album. It's more if I'm fighting for why I chose the other one more. But anyway, the one thing I really want to know, and I think Monomarth does amazing at this, is having ending songs that are super strong.
Mhm.
Warriors of the North is a perfect send off to an album, and probably I think the strongest part of this album. Um, the whole entire story, what it's about, how it sounds, it just sounds like an ending, which
Yeah.
and it's just so good. And I think they did that well in Jomsviking too, with Back on Northern Shores, which ended this album as well. And I thought that was super strong, and I love Warriors of the North. So that's my number five, and that's both of our number fives. So back to you for number four.
Awesome. So number 4 is another album that came out recently that was maybe possibly fighting against another album, right, from the same band. But at the same time, I think really it's no contest because this album just hits so goddamn hard. Is "We Are Not Your Kind" by Slipknot. Um, so this album came out right after the Great Chapter, and the Great Chapter is pretty good, right?
Hmm.
It's a pretty album, pretty good album. I wouldn't say it's like one of my absolute favorites, right? This is the only album that has come anywhere close to dethroning Iowa as my favorite Slipknot album
Hmm.
because this song goes pretty goddamn. This whole album goes pretty goddamn hard,
Yeah.
right? Like I listen to this song, and I mean, obviously, it's got a couple of tracks that might be a little bit more suited for radio play, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, oh come on, Soulwave Firth and Nero Forte and Critical Darling, and oh my god, this album was just like, ooh, Slipknot still knows how to be fucking heavy,
Hmm.
right? And there's one song that I also really like that I wish was on this album, but I can't really count as it being on the album is All Out Life because it
Oh,
was a single,
was
wasn't
it?
actually on the album. Yep.
Except in
All Out
Japan.
Life it is into Japan, right? Which is bullshit
Mm.
because, the name of the album We Are Not Your Kind is part of the chant in All Out Life, right?
Yeah.
So,
Um.
I include that as part of the album
Yeah.
regardless. It's number 4 because Slipknot, one of my all-time favorite bands, and this is one of my all-time favorite albums by them. God, it just went so hard. And it made me excited for what Slipknot was going to make next, which it really hasn't been that way for too long. I mean, I've been casually interested in what they were going to do next, since All Hope Is Gone, right?
Hmm.
Casually interested. But after All Hope Is Gone came out, I mean, I was still pretty young at that point, but I was like, yeah, it's not as good as their other albums,
Hmm.
and then the Great Chapter, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty decent. I mean, it's better than All Hope Is Gone, right? And We Are
Hmm.
Not Your Kind came out, and I was like, oh, oh yeah, they've still fucking got it. So
Yeah.
that's my number 4.
Um. Yeah. So quick aside, real quick. That does bug me when bands do this. Is they release a single that you'd really
Yep.
hope is on an album because I collect CDs, so I don't want to download shit. I want to get it on a CD and I want to put it on my computer and have it as part of the album. And so then if I go and actually pull the CD and want to listen to it, I can.
Oh,
So not having that, it does annoy me, and I feel like Slipknot could have easily just thrown that on the album and it would not have done anything. The band I'll give a kind of a break to because it's understandable is Bismarck by Sabaton was released early 2019 with an album being released later 2019. But their album being The Great War, being about the First World War, Bismarck was World War II. So kind of ruins the theme a little bit, so it's understandable. But anyway, talking about Sabaton brings me to my number 4. Segue. Um and my number 4 is actually Carolus Rex. Um released in 2012. Um Head to toe my favorite Sabaton album. I really think it's by far my favorite album. So, holy crap! Hold on. favorite. It's by far my favorite Sabaton album. How hard is that to say? Okay, sorry. So,
Swedish or English?
fuck you. S- I gotta go Swedish. Or
Yeah, yeah, because I mean the song's about Sweden, so you know.
yeah, I don't know. Eh, I do have the international version, and I don't think the whole album's Swedish.
No,
Like you can get, I think they actually did the whole album in Swedish, but like as far as like the Chorus Rex, the song being done in Swedish, I'll go with the Swedish version. Um, but okay, starting out the album, Dominus Mas Baltici, or however you say that. I'm not good at pronouncing foreign things.
Dominium Mars Baltiki.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know. I don't speak Latin.
is a really good intro to Lion from the North. Which is like all Sabaton songs, very just powerful, driving, go get it kind of song. And then you have Got Mit Unz, which is a very kind of just like it's very much a bar song. Um, it's just one of those, or like a sailor song. Like you gotta get that feeling like you're either sailing or you're in a bar having fun. Um,
Or you're charging up the fields of Breitenfeld,
yeah,
far from home.
Got it once. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it's a really good song.
And then like next after that you have Lifetime of War, which again I don't pay attention to the lyrics too much, but it's one of those ones and it has meaning to it other than what it actually is talking about. Which I think is really, really awesome. Talking about, how humanity and especially during that time is just constantly in war. Um, and it's not good, it's just terrible and whatever. Then you got 1648, the Coronian's Prayer, and then the title song, Carolus Rex, which is again one of those songs that you just hear live and you can't do anything other than just be involved and chant and do all the shit and sing the whole entire song. It's fucking amazing. Then you have Killing Ground, which is just a fun, even though it's called the Killing Ground, it's just one of those like it's very fast, very quick, very prep or peppy, whatever. But it's called Killing Ground, but it's still fun. Then you have
Mhm.
Baltova. Then you have actually probably one of my favorite Sabaton songs is Long Live the King. It's a lot slower compared to all their other, pretty much any of their other songs, and it's just musically, I love that song. Um, just melody wise, just the very clear lyrics and just being able to. And as I really love in other songs, kind of like the choir slash backing vocals that are like kind of fill in vocals a lot. Um, I love that stuff, and that's very much in that song. Um, not going to try and pronounce number 11, which is after Long Live the King. I don't even know. I want to try it. Ruina Imperi.
I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah,
Okay. Like I said,
you did it.
I'm terrible at pronouncing things, so give me a break. Um, don't really know what the song is because it's not. I don't have an English version of it. But it's a fun song. I like it. Good song. And then Army Now, which if you've ever been to a Sabaton concert, is how they intro the band. Pretty well. It's not a
Yep,
direct intro, but it's like it plays every time before the band comes on, and the whole entire crowd sings it. So again, it's amazing.
it's a fun time.
It's a fun time. So that is my number 4.
Okay, so moving on. Number 3 would be "Heaven Upside Down" by Marilyn Manson.
I knew he was going to be on the list somewhere for you.
You knew he was gonna be on the list somewhere because I fucking love Marilyn Manson. Okay, so before "Heaven Upside Down" came out, right? He had released 2 other albums in the 2010s, "Born Villain" and "The Pale Emperor," right?
Hmm.
So the High End of Low and "Eat Me, Drink Me," which came before that, were considered by a lot of people to be weaker albums for Marilyn Manson, which was, I can only assume, is a little hurtful from his perspective because those albums were very honest and very vulnerable for revealing the struggles that he's had in his relationships over the years. And The High End of Low is a very depressive album, right? And then Born Villain came out, and obviously, like every album is like, this isn't going to be anything like our previous albums. It's going to be hard. It's going to go hard. It's going to be the next Antichrist Superstar. And it's just like, okay. And it came out and it was pretty good, but it was just okay, right? It was just pretty good. And The Pale Emperor came out, and I really loved The Pale Emperor, right? It was a really big toss up between Heaven Upside Down and The Pale Emperor, right? Between which is better, right? The Pale Emperor was new for Marilyn Manson. It didn't sound like anything else, right? It was
Mhm.
smooth, it was jazzy, it was kind of sexy and sultry. It was a really, really good album. And I mean, Worship My Wreck and Slave Only Dreams to Be King are two of my favorite songs off that album. It's very good.
Mhm.
But Heaven Upside Down, okay, fucking took it, right? He said it was going to be more violent. It was going to be more reminiscent of his older albums. And like every time he says that, I'm like, okay, we'll see. Okay, we'll see.
Mhm.
And then he comes in with this single, We Know Where You Fucking Live. And it's a it's a violent song, right? The
Mhm.
title is stylized in all caps. It's meant to be played very loud. Okay. And it also helped that Tyler Bates composed the album, right? So he's very famous composer, and he does a lot of music for movies and video games, and he helped a little bit, right? But it's still very Manson, right? And each track, one after the other, is like bam, 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 just fucking amazing tracks that like I just can't help but sing along to and enjoy. I mean, some of them are a little poppier, right? Like Kill for Me, is obviously meant to be played on a radio at some point. But Saturnalia, it's like I've heard it compared to the Bela Lugosi's Dead of Marilyn Manson, that's a song by Bauhaus. It's one of the more famous songs, right? Because it feels similar, it feels that niche, right? And it's really fucking good. And then you got Blood Honey, which is like a throwback to that era of Marilyn Manson that a lot of people hated, but I really liked. And Eat Me, Drink Me, and High End of Low, which is very, personal and a little depressive. But at the same time, I feel like the quality of that song was so much more than many of the songs on those albums. And
Mhm.
then you can't listen to Threats of Romance without belting out I Like You Damaged at the end of the song, right? Which is fucked up but brutal at the same time. And I just can't I had this album on repeat. Like I own it in disc form, okay? I'm like the antithesis of John, okay, where I don't own anything in disc form, all right? But I own this album. Okay. I
Mhm.
own this one. It's in a box somewhere here in my apartment because I packed and moved recently, but it's here, right? And that's how much I fucking liked this album. So that's my number three. Let's find out what the other two are. What's
Okay.
your number three, John?
You might not see this one coming. Uh,
Okay.
and it's actually a band I found out within the last year. Well, I knew they existed, but hearing this album, dear Lord, I don't know how many times in the last year I have driven to work and back listening to this album back and forth. And that's Antichrist by Creator.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't that surprised. I was gonna assume it was gonna be like Taylor Swift, her Red album.
Go fuck yourself.
Oh, okay.
Um, I love this album. Um, and I wish would listen to the band more outside of this album, but every time I want to hear Creator, I want to hear this album. Um, so again, like kind of having those like intros that, like I said, little things that I really care about when it comes to a song. You have Mars Mantra, which leads you into the title song, Phantom Antichrist. And I mean, this fucking album just goes. I mean, I think it's kind of more thrash metal. I'd say it's kind of thrash metal. Yeah, I'd go with thrash metal on it. I'm not good with the subgenres, and I think the subgenres are kind of bullshit anyway because no one knows what they're fucking talking about half the time.
Well, actually,
Yeah. But yeah, Phantom, and it just goes. It's got good lyrical content. Again, I don't really care for lyrics, but half the time I just feel like, okay, I love what they're saying. It's very kind of just, I don't know, like there's a little bit of everything that I like. Slow parts, fast, like extremely fast parts, good singing, some slow singing, some clear singing, some screams that are just awesome. Um, when I'm, let's see, when am I, where trying to remember exactly what part of the song is, like which song it is, but no, I mean, for me, it's just hands down one of a new album, bands I've come to like, and I mean, for all the bands I've liked, especially with Modern Marth, Sabaton, all having pre-existing base of fandom inside me, having this album come out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere, but having this band come in last year and just like for me, just because I'm a big thrash metal guy, I love the Big Four, Testament, Overkill. So for Creator to come in and kind of fill that void, like because I kind of felt like I was lacking with newer thrash stuff to listen to, and Creator came in and filled that void very well for me. And yeah. So yeah.
yeah, I haven't actually listened to that album, and I'll have to maybe give it a try.
I would definitely suggest giving it a try. I honestly don't think there's a lot, like there's not a lot. I can see why people not necessarily it wouldn't be people's necessarily their favorite. Now it hits all the right notes for me, but it's one of those metal albums where if it comes on the radio, you don't turn it off. It's just good fucking metal for everybody. I don't think anyone could really dislike it. Now I'm sure that I'm sure there are people who disagree with me, but you're wrong.
Makes sense. Same thing with my number 2 pick. Many people may disagree with me, but I believe that you are wrong. And that would be The Last Stand by Sabaton. Okay. No, we've gone over Sabaton already. But this song, this album, okay, has all the bangers. Not all the bangers. The album is all bangers. That's what I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got the content, right? The Last Stand, I mean, as far as heroism in battle goes, right? If there be any glory in war, let it fall on the men in these stories, not just Audie Murphy. If there be any glory in war, right? But it's heroic, right? These are the stories that you like to hear about when it comes to people doing heroic deeds, right? Against all odds, standing with their brothers, fighting against insurmountable foes, right? That's every song on this album. Okay. Sparta, right? You just scream this song out when it comes on.
Ooh.
It's so powerful and it's such a good crowd song, right?
Yeah.
The Blood of Bannockburn, it made me want to be Scottish, right? I'm not Scottish, sadly. I have more Irish in me than Scottish. But God, I wish I could just stick it to the fucking English,
When you hear that song, you're Scottish.
What else on that album? The Last Stand, obviously title track, right? Which was, personally, I'm not a Christian, right? But I will belt it out in the name of the might of the Lord, okay? And the home of the holy. It's such a good fucking song, okay? Shirayama, appeals to the weeb in me, right? It's the last stand of the samurai. Even though not historically accurate because the sword didn't really meet the gun because samurai had guns at that point in time, but whatever, okay? Really, really good song. And then obviously, of course, right? Then the winged hussars arrive.
When the winged hussars arrive!
Yes, coming down, they turn the tides, right? It's a very such a powerful song. There is no way that I could be in a bad mood when this song comes on. It's one of my bad mood albums, right? I put it on, and all of a sudden, I'm just like, holy fuck, I'm a badass. Even though I'm listening about things that people I've never met, being badass.
Hmm.
It just feels so, it embodies what I would consider power metal to be because you feel so powerful listening to it.
Hmm.
So that's what I got to say about number two. John,
Okay.
what's your number two?
I want to add something because I didn't bring this up when I said when I talked about it, because I just remembered it. But on this song leading into the Last Battalion, Diary of an Unknown Soldier
Yeah.
goes into a little bit, and they start playing like sounds like reading off the kind of diary description or journal description that was in this that it was based off whatever. Um, what's cool about the Lost Battalion is that they use real life sounds like shots and musket. I think it was like not musket, but a bayonet tearing through something. I forget what they actually said it was. In the actual song, and it was actually still played by a drummer. It wasn't just played on a computer. It was played by a drummer using triggers. So I thought that was actually really cool. And they did the work to record the sounds. And it's something that Joachim, the lead singer, has always wanted to do. So I thought that was actually a really cool thing. But just a little side. So my number two
Hmm.
is Apex by Lucy Archers. Released in 2017. Was probably the only thing I listened to in 2017. Sort of, kind of joking, but not really.
I
I
got
listen I listen to the song so many fucking times. Um, I might have a little crush on Brittany Slays, which is the lead singer, because she's awesome and she sings like she is actually probably one of my favorite metal singers, like hands down, like my
you.
favorite metal singer. She can belt it and sound powerful without just like so a lot of, like unfortunately with a lot of metal female metal singers is they have like they feel like they have to do growls, which I really wish they wouldn't. Not that they're bad at it. There are several that can do it very well. I'm not saying they're doing it bad, but I wish more people like Brittany from Alicia Archers would do just clean, just powerful female vocals. Um, there's another one. I don't really care for their music too much, but I'm trying to remember who the. It starts with Amaranthi. Is that how you say it?
Amaranth.
Yeah, Amaranth has. She's a really good singer. I do like her singing. I just don't care for the music as much. I don't think it's as good. But anyway, so Apex Awakening is amazing. Straight up amazing. Um, I can't say enough things about this one song. Um, it's amazing. So the intro is just like it's very, very kind of it's interesting. Like it's very like the sound that's just kind of like the sounds and the kind of the atmosphere it creates, but then it just goes. It goes fast, and then the little bass parts. If you ever just watch the video for Awakening, the live studio, whatever it is, and watching the basses play is annoying because I don't understand how he does it. Because most bassists who use their fingers to pluck like have their like fingers kind of extended a little bit. Like he curls them under his like like wrist or under his
Hmm.
hand. And it's really interesting to watch. And he's so fast. Especially later in the part he does like so after the two guitarists are going crazy on the solo, he does this like sweep picking on the bass that goes like doodle doodle doo and then back into like the main part of the song. Absolutely amazing. Um Shadow Guide, following song, it's an amazing song. Uh, doesn't really stick out too much in the album. But the matriarch, like I said before, I kind of like that chanting kind of like choir singing, like those kind of parts where there's like, um, actually I don't think that's in that song. What's up? Damn it! I do kind of get. I'm getting mixed up a little bit. But this whole entire album is just amazing. 10,000 Against One has. I don't know if it would be considered a drop, but like it has a drop in it, I guess. So like, um, just kind of like it has the intro, and then she goes like 10,000 against one, and then it drops into the song, and it's just it hits good, it hits nicely, and I love it.
It's
Um,
good. I like
yeah. Um, Apex, the end to the song is very again like I like ending songs that like kind of very much clarify or are very distinct endings to an album because it wraps everything up nicely. And I like those like again I like those little details where you have a good song that starts the album, you have a good song that ends the album, and that kind of wraps it up and makes it feel like your beginning and your ending. And Apex does that
that. Mhm.
very well. It's amazing, and that's all I gotta say about that. But before I hand it off to Tony for number one, I'm gonna go ahead and do my honorable mentions before we talk about our number one.
Oh, should I do that too after you're done?
Yes, please.
I have a
Um,
lot, so I'm just gonna go through them quickly, but you go first.
yeah, I'm gonna talk mine about mine a little bit. Um, so first one is "Hail the Apocalypse" by Avatar. Amazing album, but the kind of tail end of the album kind of slows down. There's a couple songs that could live without, but the reason why it's made into the honorable mention is because it has certain songs that just I love so much that had the rest of album been as good as those songs, it probably would have been in the top 10. Hail the Apocalypse, Blood Angel, Murderer, Puppet Show, all so amazing, but then you just have ones that kind of slack the album down a little bit. That's why I didn't make it in the top 10. Number 2 is By the Light of the Northern Star by Tyr.
Mhm.
Good fucking album. But again,
Yep.
it's wow,
I'll just delete that from my honorable mentions here.
okay. Um I mean, Tyr is very much pagan metal through and through. And so you couldn't like Hold the Heathen Hammer High is almost like the anthem for pagan metal people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um that's an amazing one. By the Sword in My Hand.
That I feel a little bit like Beavis and Butthead.
Huh?
Every time we do that, I feel a little bit like Beavis and Butthead.
That's fine. Yeah. Um
Anyways.
By the Sword in My Hand, by the Light of the Northern Star. You know, again, no song is bad. Just song like there are a few that really stick out, but the whole album just kind of like I really like this album. I love this album. It deserves an honorable mention, but it just doesn't quite make it to the list. My third and final one is one you is actually on your list, and that's "We Are Not Your Kind." Um, I really love this album for a handful of songs, but there's a few songs on it that I'm kind of like I could live without. I think "Spiders" is really interesting, but I'm kind of just like, okay, it's a good song.
I really like spiders.
I do, and I'm not saying any song is necessarily bad. I'm just like,
I gotcha.
it's not as good as other songs, and then also it's just like I kind of feel like it weighs down the album a little bit. But of course, you have Nero Forte, Soulway Firth, um, Unsainted. Again, I like that choir shit, so Unsainted hit it really well for me. Um, but you know, it was just like this Death Because of Death, that little side thing in the album, just kind of like unnecessary, but it's kind of like what Slipknot does as part of like that Slipknot kind of thing. Um, so I'm just kind of like, it's an amazing album. I love it, and it deserves its number 3 as far as my
Gotcha.
honorable mentions. So back to you.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna do my honorable mentions. I'm gonna try and go through this real quick because I got a lot of them. Uh, First on the list, Koino Yokan by Deftones. I like Deftones a lot. They're a really good band. Deaf Haven, Sunbather. So, Deaf Heaven is a controversial band in the black metal industry. Because they're not black metal, not at all. And a lot of people hate that because a lot of black metal fans are obsessed with identity, right?
Hmm.
They're not true cult, so they can't make good music. But I love it. It's emotive. It's depressive, but it's uplifting at the same time. I mean, other bands have done black metal in a major key, but not many have done it to such critical acclaim as Deaf Heaven. And I think with the production quality of Deaf Heaven and how they made Sunbather, I mean, just everything from the artwork on the album, the tone of the album, the pink was the same as like what you see through your eyes when sunbathing, right? And some of the lyricism, might sound a little pretentious to some people, but I think it really resonated to me with as someone who's dealt with depression in the past. It's a very powerful album to me. Next, Alcest, the band, their album Kodama. I love Alcest; they're amazing. Next, Behemoth. I loved you at your darkest. Uh, Good fucking album. It almost made the list. Um, but there are a couple of tracks on there that I think lacked a little bit of something something. I think it could have been a little better, but
Hmm.
maybe I'm a little biased considering how good their previous album was. Scar-Sighted by Leviathan. God, that was a good fucking album. I loved Scar-Sighted. Wall of Sound. It's just so good. Um, The Wild Hunt by Watain. Got to get my street cred back with the black metal crowd. No, Watain was sick. The Wild Hunt was one of the first albums that actually got me into black metal as a genre. That and Panzerfaust by Dark Throne. But Watain they just hit it for me, at a crucial part in my musical development there. Serpents Unleashed by Skeleton Witch. Skeleton Witch was a band that I found in the last 10 years that I freaking love Skeleton Witch. Their new singer, he's pretty good. He's all right. Thought they were better before him, but I mean, that's personal opinion. He does a good job at what he does. But I think Serpents Unleashed was the best album that they have put out. I like that album. Berserker by Amon Amarth. Uh, Very good. Very good album. Very good. I think I already talked about that when I talked about Save of the Gods. And then The Pale Emperor by Marilyn Manson. Obviously I talked about that when I did Heaven Upside Down.
Hmm.
Good album, not as good as Heaven Upside Down. And then, By the Light of the Northern Star by Tyr. Come on,
Yeah.
it's a good album.
Hmm.
I fucking love Tyr. And also Odal by Vordruna, or not Odal, Ragnarok by Vordruna. They're not heavy metal necessarily. They have links to heavy metal because the lead singer and songwriter uh, Einar Selvik. He was Kvitrafen, the drummer for the black metal band Gorgoroth. So they do have links there, but it's very pagan. If you're fans of a band like Heilung or Danheim or anything, 2 hours of Nordic throat singing to relax or study to, right? If you like that, you'll like Fortune. Those are my honorable mentions. Do you think I went fast enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I do number one now?
um. Yeah.
All right. Drum roll, please. Don't actually drum roll. You might have guessed it because I said I thought Behemoth's previous album in my honorable mentions was better. It's like, if it's better than an honorable mention, where is it on your list, Tony? And well, that's because it's number one. The Satanist by Behemoth is the best goddamn heavy metal album that has ever been released by any human being on the planet Earth. And I will fight to the death anybody that. Okay, maybe I'm hyperbolizing a little bit here, but
Yeah. You
this
better back yourself up a little bit there, bud.
I will fight you, okay? I will come over there and I will fight you right
Um.
now,
All
okay?
right. Let's
No
go,
holds
bro.
barred.
Let's
I
go,
have the
bro.
power of Satan and anime on my side, okay? Let's fucking go, all right?
All right. Let's go, bro.
Okay. But seriously, this came out
Yeah.
February 3rd, 2014, okay? February 4th, 2014. The 24 hours in the day, I want to guess maybe 20 of them were spent listening to this album on repeat. There is nothing that I can skip on this album. From start to finish, it is fantastic. The composition, the lyricism, the content, Nurgle himself being such an a charismatic and powerful front man. From the first track, because I heard "Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel" on a whim. Okay, I was just clicking through videos on YouTube when this came out as a single, and I was like, "Ooh, this is something else. This is something else. All right, I'm gonna put this band on my radar." And then I listened to a bunch of other Behemoth songs, and I was like, "Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel" is better than all these other songs, even though these other songs are good, right? But hopefully the rest of the album is like that because I like it better. And it was. Fourier Divinus, Messe Noir, Oro Pro Nobis Lucifer, amazing. Amen, the Satanist, Ben Saher, In the Absence of Light, and O Father, O Satan, O Son are all. Oh, I can't understate how good this album was. And it's made it to the top of a lot of other lists too. And I agree with them. The only thing I don't agree with is not number one. All right. It's not number one. Now, I understand a lot of people may not find this album as appealing as I do, right? Because it does have a lot of religious symbolism in it, right? Atheistic Satanism is a big theme in some of the songs, right? It's more philosophical than theistic, right?
Hmm.
They're not actually worshiping Satan, you know. He's a metaphor. If you listen to the lyrics, you hopefully pick some of that up. Uh, But so I understand for a lot of people would not be their favorite album, right? Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say I'll kill anybody that thinks it isn't, because I won't, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. But for me, when this album came out, the place that it holds in my mind and my heart, it is my favorite album. And I'm very happy it came out in 2014, so I could put it on this list and talk about it here today. Do yourself a favor if you aren't afraid of harsh vocals and you aren't afraid of Satan, go ahead and give it a listen because it's some it's some good shit. God, it's some good shit. Okay, that's my number one, John. What's your number one?
You know what my number one is, and I'm
What's
sorry,
your number one?
everybody. I know Tony likes Behemoth, but he's wrong. The best album
Not wrong.
to ever come out for heavy metal is goddamn Berserker by Monomarth.
No, it's not. Come on.
Okay.
The spoken word portion of The Absence of Light in Polish is better than the entirety of the Berserker album.
You can go fuck yourself.
Okay. I will. You know what? Matter of fact, why don't you fuck me yourself, you coward? Huh? What do you think of that?
Okay, alright. Calm down. Okay.
It's
All
all
right.
in good fun here, folks.
Yeah. So again, this is very opinion based. This is our favorite. It's not the best metal album, it's our favorite.
Yeah. It was an honorable mention of mine. I freaking love that album.
Yeah. Okay, and again, it's like I've said a million times, the little things, the certain singings, whatever, just does it for me. So this album didn't really have like a lot of that, like, extra singing, like extra part, whatever. But what it did have is the little things that were absolutely perfect. The little narrative parts in certain songs, like Ironside, and Fafner's Gold. The little bass part in Valkyria. Um, just they're so goddamn perfect. So
Berserker, it's about all Stanford Bridge.
I was getting there.
Sorry,
Patience.
shouldn't interrupt.
Okay. So all right. So again, like Tony said, this is the fourth. Berserker was the fourth album we got from Amon Amarth in this past decade. Sorcerer Rising was an amazing album. Deceiver of the Gods was a better album. Did dip a little bit was Jomsviking. I did love Jomsviking, but I was ready for something better. I was ready for something new and unique as far as Amon Amarth goes. I was ready for it. So then we get the singles, Crack the Sky and Raven's Flight, which are the two worst songs on this album. So normally when you get a single, they're some of the best songs on the album. Look at Unsainted off of We Are Not Your Kind, for example. It's one of the best songs on that album, arguably. You might not agree with me, but it's arguable. A lot of the like when bands do singles, they usually tend to be the better songs of the album. The 2 singles we got off this album are the worst songs in the album. But the thing is, they're still amazingly good songs that are just so monomarth and just so powerful and like so fast and so quick. They're just, I love them, but again, they're the 2 worst songs in this album. But they're still better
They're
than
still really good.
they're still really fucking good, which says so much about this album. So
The worst song is an A+.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna break this album down from top to bottom. So you have Fafner's Gold. Nice little intro, and then it just and then it has this like slow downs part where it's just like that gives it like a little taste of the lyrics, you know, a little like kind of like the I don't know lyric structure at all. I don't know what the parts are called, but gives you a little bit of the lyrics just slowed down, and then it just picks right back up, and it just goes and finishes, and then you have Crack the Sky, which is one of the singles, and just carries you on, and then into Mjolnir Hammer Thor, which is again probably a little bit higher than those 2 songs, but a really good song. Then you have Shield Wall. Fucking Shield Wall. Has a nice little part in the middle where it just breaks down and just goes like, and it just gets really, really gets you ready. And then it picks right back up again. And I just love it so much. I love proper slowdowns that don't ruin the song and that kind of just give you a break, especially as metal, because when you're headbanging this shit, you need a break. So when it gives you that break, it's nice. Valkyria, what?
Gotta say, that might be a place where certain tracks on the Satanist do slack a little bit, as there's no break to stop headbanging.
Uh-huh. It's
Or
not necessarily.
Amen's only a 3-minute 49-second track, but by about minute 2, your head's gonna start to hurt.
Yeah.
So
Then you have Valkyria. I love the piano part at the end, the little outro, and there's a little bass. Some people again don't do the bass part right, but this is just a little tiny like.
it's good.
It's perfect. Raven's Flight again. It's that single that came out, and I'm like, okay, this is a really good song, but if this is what the album's going to be like, I'm not. It's going to be a great album, but So I'm kind of just like, okay, hopefully it's even better, and it was. Then you have Ironside.
You always gotta. Is it gonna be better than Twilight of the Thunder God? Is it gonna be better than With Odin on Our Side? If it doesn't hold up, right?
And yeah, with those two albums, it's very hard to surpass those. Do I think this album surpasses that? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. I just don't know.
It's hard to say. I mean, in terms of musical quality, maybe, but in terms of like sentimental value,
And well, okay. Music quality, I think hands down, Berserker's better. There's some definitely slip ups as far as production wise, and especially in Twilight of the Thunder God. But I feel like musically and as far as uniqueness and having some really fucking bangers, Twilight of the Thunder God has that, especially with Tattered Banners and Bloody Flags. Holy shit, that song. We'll cover like Monomarth later, and we'll probably talk about that later. But then Ironside, where you have those little narrative parts that's in the middle that just talk about it, and it's just...
I love that song. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's my name. Oh, it's so badass. Yeah. I love it.
And then you have the song that I'm sure a lot of Monomarth fans have wanted to hear for a long time. Or at least hear the story about, or in musical form, is the Berserker at Stamford Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking song is amazing.
Oh my God, that part where it's like from the Berserker's perspective, and he's yelling at the Englishmen to come at him because he's not afraid. Oh, it's just like, because this is the Berserker, right? This is the end of the Viking era. After this battle, it's over. He's the last true full embodiment of what it means to be a Norse warrior, standing against impossible odds to be struck down by some dastardly coward from down below.
Hmm.
Right?
I
Oh,
mean,
it's so badass.
yeah. Um, and yeah, just when he's going, and then right at the end where he's like, "In my heart, I know I have no fear," or whatever exactly it is. I'm spacing right now, but it hits so hard. It hits so well, and I love that song. And I mean, it's amazing. And then after that, you have when once again we set sail, which is a really good song. Skull and Haughty, um, another really good song. When Wings of Eagles, another really good song. And then the interesting one that is kind of out of left field a little bit because it doesn't really have much of a Viking theme to it is Into the Dark. But there's just parts of that. And I think so Johan Haig has always said that they're not a Viking death metal band. They are a death metal band that happens to sing about Vikings. And I think Into the Dark is very much a death metal song that they did really well that has nothing to do with Vikings. And I loved it. It's an amazing song, and I love that they changed a little bit. And I think the big thing about it and why I love this album so much is that they did something different. That's completely like they haven't done before. They did something different with this album, and they did it so well. And like it didn't make me sad, it didn't make me angry, it didn't make me dislike the album at all. It made me love it even more. And that, folks, is my number one, Berserker by Amon Amarth.
Very respectable choice.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be your number one, but at the same time, because it's a good pick.
Yeah.
It's a very good pick.
I agree. I mean, I'm not. I love. I've seen Behemoth now twice. I think they've done really good. I do like seeing them live, but they're not my kind of taste in music, really. But it's a respectable choice. As far as I do see I do see they do have some musical stuff, especially they're good. They're a good pick. But so with this being our top 10, I also wanted to be slightly negative a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So one thing I need to really state, and I need other people to understand, is how big of a Metallica fan I am. Now, a lot of it is sentimental. Like, my top two bands are Sabaton and Mountain Marth. My third favorite band, which was dethroned by those two, is Metallica. For the longest time, I would fight anyone who dissed Metallica. I've kind of backed off of that because I also grew up a little bit. But here's the thing. They've been knocked off because Metallica's the ones who got me in the metal, specifically the S&M album, which I talked about in a podcast a long time ago with the release of S&M 2 when it's all in theaters, blah, blah. I love Metallica. But they are also the recipients of my Dud Award with
Womp womp.
Hardwired Self-Destruct. So I'm actually a decently sized fan of Death Magnetic. I think there's some really good stuff on there. Maybe like a lot of people don't like it, blah, blah, whatever. Here's the thing. I thought they were getting back and going back very, and starting to get back to a little bit more heavier, older style stuff. And that kind of got delivered a little bit on Hardwired Self-Destruct. Skin and Bone, or whatever the song is. It's a really good song, very fast. It gives me a lot of that like Nightmare, All Nightmare Long kind of feel, which I love All Nightmare Long. And so it was good, but the thing is, the rest of the album was just a dud. I mean, you had some few songs, but the thing is, after waiting 10 years for a new Metallica album, you want it to be good. You want it to be amazing. We need something better. We need something better than what we got from Death Magnetic or Saint Anger, Load, whatever. And a lot of this comes from past feelings and how much I love Metallica, but I want them to do better. So when I see them release something like this, and I'm like, well, a couple songs are good, but then the rest are just kind of like, meh,
Yeah.
And so I have to give them my dud of the decade. As far as
Dud of the decade. I didn't even think about that till you mentioned it. Right?
yeah,
Don't know if I have a dud of the decade, like out of band, like songs, like albums that I wanted to like but
hmm
didn't like at all.
yeah,
Um, it's hard to say. Hard to say. Uh, Probably. I mean, Vengeance Falls by Trivium was pretty pretty lackluster in my opinion.
I would argue.
I don't know how you can put it on.
I would argue that Vengeance Falls is better than Waves.
Yeah, I
And
think you know what. You know what? Yeah, swap out Vengeance Falls for Egg Whites. I think I think you're right on that one. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Trivium.
hmm
Both of those albums have decent songs on them. Pretty good. They come on in my shuffle. I will not skip because they are decent. However, overall, I will not put on that album and listen to it all the way through because I do not think it is a very good album. It's pretty
fair.
bad.
Now
Oh,
someone.
wait a minute. Hold on a second. Hold on. I might be able to pull out a pretty big fucking dud
All
out
right,
of the way.
but
Okay.
real quick, hold on. Now
Okay.
some people might say, why didn't you use Lulu instead? Honestly, I have not heard a goddamn song off of Lulu, and I won't.
you just you just not not
N-
trying to.
no, that is not a Metallica album. It's a Lou Reed album that Metallica happened to be on. Doesn't count.
Okay. You know what? Never mind. Never mind on my album. Didn't come out in 2010s.
Okay.
Oh.
Um.
So, anyways, I think yeah, I think out of all that, I mean, big duds. Say that one Trivium album was probably it for me.
Yeah, I think that's
So
fair.
think we're done here. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Um,
I think so too.
a lot of
Yeah.
good albums in this decade. A lot of them. Um,
And we could talk about a lot of them for a very long time. And we could probably just like go song by song and do a whole episode on each one of these albums. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I mean, it's something that, you know, while it's subjective, right?
hmm
I feel like we agree on a lot of different points here.
Yeah.
A lot of
Um,
different albums, a couple of differences, but that's to be fair.
hmm But yeah, been a good decade. And actually, real quick, looking forward, I know Ozzy Osbourne released new album this year already. Five Finger Death Punch releases new album. Lamb of God's releasing a new album, so we got some things to look forward to already in this next decade.
Oh, yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Um, hopefully a goddamn better Metallica album. Tell you what.
Oh, come on, it's not gonna happen.
um, I mean, I think I might be a little too harsh on Hardware Self Destruct. There's some good stuff on there, but it's still I was I think part of it was like, like you go into movies and if you expect too much and you watch it and then you get disappointed, well, it's kind of your own fault a little bit. But I think that's kind of the way it was with Metallica with Hardware Self Destruct. I think I had too high of hopes for it that when it actually came out, I was just disappointed. So, yep.
Yep.
Well,
Let us know in the comments section what you think is your top 10 metal albums of 2010.
or don't, because you're probably wrong anyway. All right.
Yeah. If you don't want to pick the Satanists as number one, yeah, you're wrong. I mean, that's to be fair, but as long as it's on your list, I might want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and put your list down below. And we'll probably comment on how wrong you actually are. So, all right. With that,
Or agree with you. We could agree with you.
that too. I mean, but if your list isn't word or album for album what mine is, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you know what? Agreed. If your list isn't the same as John's, I don't like you.
and if your list isn't the same as Tony's, I don't like you either. So, it has to
Alrighty.
be the same as both of ours at the same time.
Exactly. If there are any deviations in your review of any of these albums, Hell, even if you put Ramstein above Deceiver of the Gods, you're wrong. Come on,
Yep.
let's be real. Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.